All right, guys. Welcome. So this is going to be something pretty special, something we haven't done before. So the one caveat here is going to be we have our videos on just so I can answer your guys' questions. But essentially, what I want to do is just go over the most common questions, right? Because what I've been finding is obviously with the Instagram lives, the Facebook lives, the trainings, etc. What I've been finding is I get a lot of repeat questions, and it's not a bad thing, but if I could just address it and then provide some trainings for you guys on the back end and just give you some absolute clarity, like that's my goal at all times, right? But before we even get started, I think Brandy, I think you got the kiddos in the background or something. So before we get started, I'm actually going to play you guys a quick little video I think you guys will like. It's something I just got sent to me by another business owner also, and I think you guys would really like this. So let me share my screen real quick. Jorge, what's going on, brother? ¿Qué tal? So let's do this. Share my audio. Let's see if this pops up.
CEO Brian Armstrong, along with our own Emily Wilkins. Emily, take it away.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Brian, thank you so much for being here. You got that shout out, of course, from the president. Talk to me a little bit about what this stablecoin bill becoming law is going to mean for Coinbase.
Yeah, well, this
the video's in black.
Really
I'm seeing the video black.
Financial revolution for
There you
America.
go.
It means that crypto can finally start updating the financial system, especially for our payments, which are running on these creaky old systems that are decades old. Now, every payment in our economy can be fast and cheap and global, under 1 second and 1 cent anywhere in the world. So this is a huge milestone for crypto, and the job's not done. We also want to get the market structure bill called Clarity passed as well. The president said he wants to see that on his desk by September 30th. We're committed to trying to help that happen along with the rest of the industry, and it offers good consumer protections and regulation for Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the non-stablecoin crypto assets as well.
And let's talk about that market structure bill for a minute. Obviously, the House passed their bill with strong bipartisan support, but the Senate is planning on coming up with their own version of this bill. Should the Senate just take up the House version, given the strong support? Or if not, what do you want to see the Senate change from the House version?
We actually really like the House version. It's called the Clarity Act, and we think it's a really good piece of legislation. Now, the Senate will have to look at it and see if they want to make any edits to it, but I'm hoping that there aren't too many and that we can get it on the president's desk by September 30th.
Brian, it's Morgan. It's great to have you back on Overtime. Congrats on the milestone today. I want to go back to this creaky financial infrastructure. How quickly can that infrastructure now be overhauled with this legislation making its way into place?
Yeah, well, I think now that we have clear legislation, we're going to see the Fortune 500 really start to adopt stablecoins. We've started to see this a little bit already, even with the news that this was, going to pass in the near future. Coinbase just launched an integration with Shopify, for instance, and we've seen announcements from Walmart and Amazon, and almost every Fortune 500 company is now coming in and starting to look at stablecoin payments. And so this is a big opportunity for us. It's a TAM expansion for our business, and we think that we can provide these wallets and payment APIs for really, the whole financial system and every company eventually.
Yeah, and is it safe to call this a new and emerging revenue stream for Coinbase? And if so, how quickly does that grow over time?
Yeah, so that's absolutely right. Our first revenue stream was around trading, and then we also have subscription and services, which has become a bigger and bigger part of our revenue over time. I think payments is the next big category, and this is a daily use case for crypto for millions of Americans and eventually people around the world, especially those doing cross-border transactions and in countries where they don't have stable currency. They might have 50, 100% inflation a year, and so they have high demand for the dollar. They can now, if they have a smartphone, they can get access to a dollar-denominated account. And so I think trading and payments are going to be the two biggest categories for us, and it's absolutely a new revenue line for us that'll smooth out our revenue with like a daily use case that's not tied to crypto trading volatility.
All right, guys. So a lot of I'm not going to say geek talk, right? But a lot of more technical talk. And so here's the reason why I bring this up, right? So essentially, the way you want to think about this, it's actually very, very simple, right? Like somebody had just sent this to me, another business owner friend of mine. He's like, "Hey man, did you see this?" And I never even saw that interview. And this was about the stablecoin bill that got passed, and it was about 2 months ago, called the Genius Act. And essentially, what it says is, if you're familiar with crypto, there's all these different cryptos, but we have what we call stablecoins: USDC, USDT, etc. and they're just kind of floating anywhere and there's no real backing behind them. So the law basically that got passed says, hey, if you're going to say you have a stable coin, meaning it's actually stable, well, what that means is you have to actually be backed by the US dollar or US dollar equivalent. So why that's such a big deal means is that, well, stablecoins are across the world. Literally, you can be in Nigeria, you can be in South Korea, it doesn't matter. You can own this thing. Now we've just forced everybody to own US dollars. So investing wise, cool, something else. But the reason why it matters to us, even in this room right now, and if you're just looking into investing in type of business, got to understand that, well, if we're going digital, you start realizing that Visa, that MasterCard, that Amex that you're using that's based on the traditional bank accounts is on a completely different system. It's almost like if you had DSL back in the day or a dial-up, and now we're moving towards wireless cell phone like 5G. They're completely separate systems. They can run parallel to each other, but you start realizing why one is the bigger thing. So the reason I bring this up specifically is it's just a random YouTube video that I saw. Just saw it earlier today. It hasn't gotten a lot of traction. You see a few million views because people are thinking about that from the terms of like investing into crypto. But when you start thinking about the systems and the structures, the infrastructure that starts to change when we start moving in this direction, you kind of start realizing where the opportunities are. And in business in general, realistically, as an entrepreneur, you can always try to chase older trends like, you know, vending machines, AI bots, and all that stuff that's getting kind of saturated now. Or you can always start just towards looking towards the future. You start looking for, if you play sports, where the ball is going to go. Right. So just a small thing I wanted to start off with, because most of you guys, I'm pretty sure, haven't seen it because I didn't see it personally. You'll probably see some emails get sent out about it also, just so people are aware like what's going on. But that's part of the reason why I get so excited about crypto payments, because if you guys know a little bit about myself, obviously I've helped thousands of people start ATM businesses, Bitcoin ATMs, credit card processing businesses, like all the traditional sense. But this is like, man, I've always been a geek. Over the last 10 years, I've always been saying, invest in crypto, invest in crypto. I was that one friend that had the tinfoil hat on, right? Before, when I had some hair. But nowadays, while that's fun and like it's cool that I made those investments, I've learned that you can always have $1 million saved up, but the moment you spend $1, you're no longer a millionaire. Versus if you actually focus on cash flow, because that's really what matters. If you can just focus on cash flow increasing, that covers your bills, it covers your expenses, and then you can invest into those things like crypto. Right. So I've kind of had that mindset shift over the last few years as I really got exposed to business and I realized where real wealth is built. It's not in that random investment, that random stock you buy. It's always people that have invested into some type of business, whether it's a parking lot where you're charging people outside of a fair, whether it's a vending machine business, or you just have an ice cream shop and you just happen to be in the middle of the desert. Ultimately, it comes down to, you know, we're in the land of freedom, we're in the land of opportunity. So I always try to focus on the newest businesses that make sense. And that's why I'm going all in on crypto payments, right? So with that being said, this is strictly a Q&A session. That's it. I want to answer the most common questions you guys have. And then what you guys will actually see is that if you ask a question, I have it getting written down. I have my executive assistant that'll document this also. You'll see some future trainings on this. You'll see some YouTube videos. You'll probably see a webinar, and you're going to recognize a question of the way it's answered. You're like, wait a second, I'm pretty sure you told me that on on Thursday. So I'm going to open it up to you guys. Any questions whatsoever you guys have about like crypto payments, the business in general, like anything you think of, because it helps me also too.
So as far as the machines, like what kind of research have you done to like ensure like these machines will be around the next 5, 10 years?
Let me ask you this. That's a really good question, right? So when you're saying the machines, what's your understanding of like how the machine comes into play?
So payment of sale, or what is it called? Purchase of sale POS system. You know,
Mhm.
anywhere, bars, convenience stores, restaurants, bookstores, you know, Walmart, anything of that. You know, everyone has a different machine and a different way it
Mhm.
operates and different
Yeah.
purposes. So this machine, you know, I'm assuming, you know, the plus for the restaurants or the owner of that machine is you get that marketing where you can say, hey, Bitcoin's accepted here,
Mhm.
which is pretty cool and pretty popular right now. But as far as like you know, converting that Bitcoin into cash for them to use it readily in their daily income, you know, that is a major plus. But
Mhm.
what kind of guarantees that these machines won't be outdated by the time, you know, the next 5, 10 years?
That's a really good question. I wanted to understand your understanding because I've actually been getting that question a lot. We get more like tech focused, and it's kind of like, or equipment focused, kind of like you're like, hey, is this car going to be around, right? It's more of the concept you understand. So this is more software based. So what you have to understand is we focus on more software based because that's where the success is going to be, because you start talking about online businesses also. So as long as you have any type of tablet that runs iOS, like Apple, or Android, you can do the exact same thing. So don't get caught up in the machines. Like this is just, when you really think about it, this is just a fancy tablet. That's all it is, right? Even the POSs you're talking about, the point of sale systems, in case you guys don't know, all they are just fancy tablets. They just have a brand on it, and they just have a company that sells it to you, right? So don't worry about the actual equipment, because as we move on and crypto gets more and more adoption, I'm not saying we're going to get rid of credit cards. I'm not saying we're going to get rid of debit cards and cash, right? But I am going to say that we're going to have more advanced technology, like more advanced POS systems. There's going to be something new that comes out, some holographs or whatever, or maybe even some remote support. So to answer your question, I'm not worried about the replacement of these, because you can run it on anything. So if the business already has tablets, you can just add software on there. And the only difference is when they choose to pay with crypto, all they do is press a button and they choose the amounts. They choose the crypto they want. The customer scans it just like Apple Pay, and the merchant gets paid in cash. And if they choose to pay with Apple Pay, or they choose to pay with a debit card or credit card, they just use their original software. That's it. Does that answer your question?
Well, it does. It does. It does. Um, Yeah, no, it's a scary thing because like end of the day, there's so much unknown in the crypto
Yeah.
specter, going forward. We're talking about quantum computing, and could possibly hack Bitcoin, and they're giving it like a what, a 20% chance that it is possible, and things of that nature. So when we're talking to these business people, what kind of guarantees does digital residue give them to kind of put their minds at ease in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's an analogy I always give. A lot of my friends are in business also, and so sometimes we get so caught up on like looking in a telescope, right? So we're looking at a telescope and we're looking at Mars. We're like, we're gonna get to Mars. Think of like Elon Musk. He's always saying, we're going to Mars. We're going to Mars, right? And so the thing is, you get so focused long term, then you take a step back away from the telescope and you realize, oh, I haven't even figured out how to land a rocket yet, right? So you're having all those issues, and then we're one step closer. So the reason I give you that analogy is because you're thinking about like a crypto being hacked in the future, right? We're not in the business of crypto. We're literally just a payment processor. That's what you're doing also. You're just the middleman. That's the same analogy as like, hey, what's the difference with if somebody's bank account gets hacked? Because you gotta think about it this way, right? Crypto is very advanced, right? That's why I don't get so caught up in it. But here's the thing. I'm pretty sure, password 123 for somebody's Chase business checking account is probably more likely to get hacked than that, right? So when it comes down to guarantees, we don't even bring it up because it doesn't matter. Like the likelihood of that happening is so extremely rare. And if that happens, you're talking about like entire financial collapse. I'm not worried about like a payment processor. I'm worried about my own bank account, because if that happens and they're hacking something like that, think about that for a second. Think about the effects it has on the world. So the cool thing about this is the thing that most people don't pay attention to. It's actually stable coins. So is anybody in here not like familiar with stable coins by any chance? Anybody? Or we all have like some kind of like basic understanding of like, it's like a digital dollar, just to make it not as fancy. So the way you want to think about it is like this. The most profit realistically is going to be from stable coins with crypto payments. As crazy as that sounds, as much as we're saying, oh, we're going to do Bitcoin and this and that, we accept multiple cryptos, but it's going to be stable coins. And the reason why is because it's a 1-for-1. And if you notice what the government's doing in the US, they're really shifting towards stablecoins. That's why all these laws are being passed. You see that a few mortgage acts that are being pushed also for crypto payments and all that. So you got to think about it like this. You're the exact same equivalent of a normal guy who goes and says, hey, do you want to accept credit cards? And I'm going to charge your customers a fee, and I'm going to get a percentage. Just like how that industry exists already, we're just doing the exact same thing with another form of payment, which is crypto. So we don't get so worried about like if it get hacked or this or that, like all these doomsday scenarios, right? Because the way you got to think about it is, if the US government's investing into something, I'm not the smartest guy. And I do know that there's a decent amount of investors that do that, right? And then the other thing is, I showed you guys that video from Coinbase. Coinbase, they're a pretty big company. They're probably one of the first crypto exchanges that got very popular. They're the first ones that ever went public. And, a lot of people ridiculed them, saying you guys aren't going to make money. Now they're connected directly with the White House. But if companies like Coinbase, a Fortune 500 company, if companies like PayPal, a pretty big company that have some intelligent people that work there, if companies like Square, if you guys are familiar with Square, which is a normal payment processor, are all starting to accept crypto payments, it's one of those things like, I don't need the entire pie. I just need a small piece of the pie and I can make a decent amount of money. So to answer your question, absolutely not worried about it whatsoever, because crypto getting hacked is out of our control. It's out of PayPal's control. It's out of Coinbase's control. So for us to worry about it, it wouldn't make any sense. Does that answer your question?
No, perfectly. Yep.
What else, guys? Any question? There's no such thing as a dumb question. I came from the Marines. Trust me. There's no such thing as a dumb question.
Yes, except for 5, brother.
Except for five.
I do have a question. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, I can. Walter, what's going on?
Okay, perfect. So how do you integrate with POS systems? He just mentioned restaurants and any service industry. How do we or do you integrate your system with an existent POS system?
It's going to depend, right? So for everybody to understand, when we're saying POSs, in case you guys aren't familiar, it's a point of sale system. Usually it has like menus, some outliers, some modifiers saying, do you want ketchup, things like that, right? So it depends on the company they're using. So the way you want to think about this is almost like, remember old school cell phones where they had like Singular and you try to switch over to AT&T and they charge you an early termination fee. Credit card payments are the same way. That's just how they are right now. So the moment you try to like make any modifications, that rep is like, hey, what's going on? Is everything okay? Right? Because they're worried about getting replaced. So if you have a rep that's a direct contact and the system's able to, like, you can add an app on there, it's very simple. If not, the simplest way to do this is you would have a simple like terminal. So you'd have something like this, which is literally just like $150, just so you know, right? It's really just a tablet with a receipt printer. So you'd have something like this, you'd have the software on there. And so whenever somebody wants to pay with crypto, all you would do is do the transaction there. And then from the merchant side, because first thing you're to wonder is accounting, well, you would just code the transaction differently. So it's the exact same thing when somebody has like a pizza spot and they usually have like some outdated point of sale system for like 10 years. They're like, I don't want to make any changes. And you want to add in a new credit card payment system. It's the exact same method they do. All they do is code the transaction as cash or some other, and they know every single other one like that is from the machine. And then you have your own back office that shows all the transactions too. And you put reference numbers for like order numbers or things like that too. So, that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah. That answered perfectly.
Yeah.
Now, once you process a payment, and I'm thinking restaurants, right? I'm thinking restaurants. You process a payment, you go into your POS system, you close the tab, you close the check, it's done. Where does that crypto go into? Does that goes into your account and then your account will send it over to the owner's account? Can the owner say, no, this is my cold wallet, I want you to put your my crypto, they pay me in XRP, they pay me in Bitcoin, just put it into this cold wallet? How does that work?
Yeah, really good question. So first of all, most merchants will not want to do the cold wallet thing. They're just going to want to get paid in cash because especially in the restaurant industry, it's very thin margins. You're talking about best case 20, 30 maybe, right? Percent. And if people are drunk and it's late at night, you're raising your prices. So with that, usually it's going to be crypto to cash. So we're the processor, and depending on what you use. And so what happens is the customer will go to the actual do the payment. And so they will choose what crypto, and it gets automatically converted at that rate. So almost like at a Western Union or any type of like foreign exchange at like an airport where they have that rates, that's what happens. And the business owner automatically gets paid in cash. So the business owner can choose if they want crypto too. That's an option. But then again, if somebody pays in Bitcoin, for example, if the price goes up, awesome. But if there's some fluctuation and you got to worry about like workers' comp or like your employees or like even just buying more food, that's some of the concerns most merchants have. So most people would just do fiats. So, make sense?
Yeah. It does. I think it will vary on each individual case. You know.
It would literally look like this, where they choose: do they want it settled in cash or do they want it settled in crypto? Cool. So you did bring up a good point. It's going to depend. Every merchant's going to be different regarding like what they want. Most what we found is going to be cash. When you start looking at like higher ticket places, like, we've had, of course, like with these ads. So a lot of people that want to start the business reach out, and then we have a lot of merchants that reach out directly, like, hey, can you sign me up? With the jewelry stores and the places that have like, high-end clothing, or, maybe like car dealerships that are independently owned that do deposit before they do the loan. A lot of those guys will actually want crypto directly because, okay, I might as well, right? But most people will just choose the conversion because either way, they're still getting the amounts. But some of the forward-thinking guys, like especially if you're like in the Bay Area or certain like tech cities, there's like a motel, for example, or a hostel where they only accept crypto payments, which is really cool. And they only want to own it in crypto, and they've been doing this for years. So you're going to run into that crowd, and then you're going to run into the traditional crowd, which is what you want to focus on first because the most money is there. And then e-com is different also. So e-commerce, you guys can sign up like gambling websites or different websites like that. So depending on the structure of how they're running their business, sometimes they're like, hey, we'll just keep crypto too. So there's a lot of opportunities. You just got to know that, hey, the most common question is what you just asked, which is, well, how do I get paid? How does it settle? Because they're used to credit card payments where they have to do batching out at nighttime, doing tips and all that. This is just a final payment, like it's cash. That's all the difference is. Cool. What else, guys? Anything. Trust me. Every question you've asked, I guarantee you I've had it asked before. I haven't been stumped yet, and I'm trying. All right.
Well, what is our relation to the company? Are we 1099s, or how's that work? The compensation structure and our relationship.
Yeah, really good question. So basically, what it looks like is you would have an LLC or a company. So you have your independent company, and then you're contracting with these different merchants, just like if you're doing credit card processing, and then you get once a month payouts. So based on the commission, so we charge the customer a fee, you would get your cuts, and then it'd get paid out to you once a month.
So once we get in the flow of things, and we start getting like some contracts under our belts, as far as like the old POS system compared to the new one, um, does it matter, or how's that, how
You know,
how do you determine how do you determine, like, what's it called, like that they are going to be using that system or not?
So I might have misunderstood your question. So once you start getting your cuts, like once they start using it, how do you know if they're using yours?
Yeah, so, they have a POC system in place, and then we introduce them to our POC system that accepts crypto. Maybe down the line they decide to stick with the old one and not utilizing this POC system. What kind of scenario you see there, and how's that usually play out?
So they're two different things. So that's what you got to understand. So I don't see that scenario playing out because one of them is just like traditional payments. And yours is
Yeah.
completely different. And then again, like I said, like you can put the software on there also. So that just sounds like more of a relationship issue, maybe with a merchant where you have conversation with them. Because remember that's your account, like that's your business you're doing business with. And usually what I
Okay.
recommend is you check in with them like once a month, like just like how you would with a family member, like, hey, how are things going? Any issues whatsoever? And that's enough to have like 5-10 year relationships. In fact, people usually refer you business to that way. So I don't see that happening because they're completely separate. The one trick though, I show this to the clients. What you can do is you can capitalize on both. So basically, you can get your foot in the door with the crypto payments. And so you just like, all right, cool, we're doing business. Awesome. And then within a few weeks or a month, you say, hey, what's going on with your other point of sale system, or whoever your provider is, especially if it's bank owned. And then what you can do is actually have them convert over too. And if you do that, that's we're not in the space anymore, but I can connect you with some normal like credit card processing, and you just double dip. So you profit off of the crypto and then off the traditional one too. So that way you're just having multiple streams of income from the exact same business. It's the same concept I did with like traditional ATMs. When you place them at a business, then you're like, hey man, I'm doing your ATM. Why don't I just do this for you also? And you can get multiple streams of income from the same business. But to kind of take a step back from your question, I don't anticipate that happening because if you've gone in there, spoken to the business owner, they're using your service, they're not competing with anything else. Like one person's coming to pay with a credit card, one person's paying with crypto. They're totally different things. And then your service would also put them on a map to show that, hey, this place accepts crypto payments. So they start getting more traffic too. So cool.
But as far as our machines, they still accept fiat, right? It's they still do that fiat to fiat, or
No, they
or
don't.
however that works. No.
They don't. Yeah, I'm purposely avoiding that. And the reason why is because now you're just adding your competition for yourself. Because if you're familiar with maybe like the traditional space, it's very, very competitive. And it's not impossible to get in. You can easily be successful. I've helped a lot of people do it, but it's harder for you to scale your business because now you're fighting two battles. Number one is like, hey, you're just trying to get to work with the merchant. And the other thing is like, you don't know the relationship, whoever's there. Like, have they been, is it their brother who has the business? Is it their cousin? And now all of a sudden you're trying to sell two things at once. So it's very funny. I get a lot of bigger companies, they'll say, that reach out, have like thousands and thousands of like reps and all that. And they say, hey, let's partner up. Can you start selling our credit card processing? And the answer is always no. And the reason why is because ultimately the way you want to think about it is like this. Why add more friction to yourself? It makes no sense, right? So you can always add that in after the fact, and I can connect you with different companies. But the thing is this, now you have to argue with the merchant or like fight them or sell them on two different things when you really just trying to focus on one. And I'm really big on simplicity scales and complexity fails nowadays in business, because if you're trying to do multiple things at once, you're literally just going to fail. And I think, Walter, it sounds like you have like normal payment processing experience. And the way you nodded when I said that, you realize that in the traditional space, man, it's cutthroat. People will come in, they'll sell their grandma for an account. It's craziness. Like, they come in like, I promise I'll give you $500 like if you sign up with me. So now you're competing with that versus you being the only one offering a new thing. You get in the door, and then on the back end, when you build that relationship, that's when you can reapproach them and say, hey, Jeff, we've been working together. Like, how are things going? Any issues whatsoever? Do you want me to help you out with that? Okay, no problem. Well, do you have anybody else that would benefit from this also? And they know other business owners. I'm like, you know what? My cousin has this smoke shop, or my friend was actually asking about it, how it worked. I'll just put you in contact. So now you've scaled one business even farther versus just trying to fight to scale two businesses, which is much harder. So long drawn out answer, but more a mindset of like scaling the business, right?
No, I get it. So kind of back to the same question, and so so these transactions, it was just fiat to fiat. We're not making any money there, not getting commission,
No,
or
no,
what
we
are you
don't do that
saying?
at
No,
all. Yeah, we don't do that at
yeah.
all right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the only commission we're getting is the crypto transactions, right?
Correct. Yeah. And if you want, like I said, the fiat to fiat, I can connect you with different companies. I'm just not doing it directly because, again, it's split attention. I've already secured, like, if there's another company that's still running, we have, I think, like 1,000 reps that work there too. And they've all done very well with traditional payments. But again, it's two different industries. And I'm 100% focused on this because if you sprint with this, you could really gobble up like the market around you. So cool. What else, guys? Anything
Okay,
else?
I have a question. So, uh, you're right. So I have restaurants, right? So I'm very familiar with POS systems. And yes, you're right. They will come to you, and depending on your volume, that they offer you everything, right? Cash, 3 months, sales, whatever. The main point or my main drive to make a decision and select a processing company, it all comes down to customer support, right? That if the machine crashes, I can pick up the phone and somebody will answer right away. What kind of customer support is gonna be backing us up for us to provide this service and be efficient?
It's gonna be the same thing, the exact same thing. So there's only, because when you think about it, credit card payments usually have more issues because there's, number one, you start dealing with cards. Somebody has a magnetic swipe, they don't have a chip, things like that, right? And they usually have like denied cards. You got to call their bank, etc. This is much simpler because, number one, we're focusing more software based, and they're scanning our QR code. And then the other thing is, you got to remember, usually the people using crypto payments, I'm not going to say they're smarter, but they're just a little more aware. Kind of like how you guys are thinking differently. It's not going to be somebody that like doesn't even know how to operate their phone. So you don't have the same issues. The only things that could potentially happen is it just take too long to do the transaction, but then it keeps resetting. So you have a temporary code on there and it resets every 30 seconds for them to do it. So that way you get that approved. So you have a temporary one assigned to yourself. But to answer your question, have the same support. So the same process, 1-800 number, email support, et cetera, too. So,
This.
Wally, you got the party going back there, man. All right. So yeah, same support system, the exact same thing. And the cool part is because it's irreversible. You don't worry about, depending on, what type of food you sell, you don't worry about the chargebacks, right? You still got to get the reviews, make sure like still customer service. But again, some of these businesses, especially higher risk businesses, if you guys are in the space, they worry a lot about chargebacks because sometimes you don't have the best clientele go into your smoke shop or something like that. So to answer your question, all the same support because we do this international also. But when it comes down to it, you do have a different clientele that use this also. And then what we like to do, what I recommend for clients is they'll have some type of pamphlet or some type of quick explanation on the counter. And the reason why is number one, it's marketing. So you get to market your brand. So somebody comes in who's like, I go to your restaurant, I'm still a business owner, right? So I'm still going to, transact at your restaurant. I see that. And all of a sudden it's almost like the business cards. So I get educated because maybe the first time or the second time I don't do it, but the third time that I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. So the way we structure it is marketing plus support at the same time, where on the front end, the customer sees it. Because it's kind of like if you guys go to a liquor store and there's like a new soda that pops up. Well, if it's not on an end cap, when you go to your area, you're going to notice that new bright label, right? So that first time you may not buy it, but that second time you go there, you might make that decision. So for the support side, we like to educate the customers because they're usually repeat customers that come in, especially if they're, last minute. And then on the back end, if there are issues, there's a 1-800 number and email support too. So cool. Wally, what do you got for us, man? I know you got the party back there, man. What do you got for us? And then who else did I got in here? Frandy, also, I didn't see any questions. I'm sure you guys will probably have something as you're hearing other people talk. That's what usually happens. That's why I love when people ask questions.
Hey, how you doing, guys? Sorry, I didn't know that. I'm on mute. So I'm
No
super
worries.
clear so far. Everything is good. Me and Danny talk very clear. I'm just listening. More questions, answers.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes the way yeah,
most of the questions they ask is really what I listen. So they, while you talk, you pretty much answer all the questions pretty much. But I do own an ATM. I got one at a liquor store. So
nice.
the only thing is that I get the processing with the crypto and everything. It's just the investing the money, like, because I know it takes money to make money. So I'm just looking forward to that. Like, I already know
Yeah.
it takes to to jump in one time later. But I'll listen.
Yeah, no, the way I look at it is I'm big on, I was in law enforcement for years, right? So I always just listen because you learn something new all the time. And the rule of thumb is like, I look at us sometimes as like fish in a fishbowl where we're just kind of like, what's water? You don't even know what's out there until you hear somebody else say something. And that sparks the actual interest into like whatever your question is. So realistically, after this, I'm sure you guys will have additional questions, but essentially it's pretty simple. There are the more common questions, and it's usually merchant-based questions that pop up, like just like Walter, how you're mentioning. And once you understand the answers to those questions, it kind of starts making more sense. And that's why you start seeing the shift that's happening. I was actually just talking to somebody recently, like the other day. And so they just got started. They're in Portland. And they're telling me a story. They're like, hey, my aunt, it was just random. My aunt was asking me how to invest into crypto. I was like, that's random. I was like, yeah. It's like I've been trying to get her to invest in crypto for like 5 years. And finally she randomly messaged me like 30 minutes ago before I saw your ad. It's like, oh, it's probably sure it's Mark Zuckerberg watching. I was like, well, why? She's like, well, she told me that. And it was like Seattle TAC Bank or whatever. She's like, the reason why is because, initially I was like, yeah, crypto's a scam, et cetera. Like the normal, the narrative that was being pushed, unfortunately, in the US. But we had this internal memorandum and it says, hey, just be prepared.
Yes.
We're gonna start with we're gonna start potentially accepting crypto payments, and that's gonna be a big industry now. And it was more education based for the employees, right? Because you know how they have the internal memorandums, and then it gets passed down from HR, and then they start doing individual training, common questions. Because if they have small business accounts, natural questions that come up. But the thing that stood out, she's like, if that's happening, and my bank is pretty big, even though it's a small bank in Seattle, I can only imagine the trajectory we're going, right? So the rule of thumb is I like to pay attention to kind of like, the heartbeat sometimes, like the pulse of things. And it's kind of like, you're in the restaurant industry, Walter. You know how we went from like, fried fast food to like, now is it organic? Now is it more like health oriented? And if you're able to swing that, you can charge twice as much with just a minimal change. But that's the pulse of where we're going. We're start talking about health more now versus McDonald's. So as things start to change, you start realizing like, hey, we have this traditional industry, which is still a phenomenal business, right? I have an entire call center. They call credit card processing locations all day, every single day, right? In Vietnamese, Spanish, Korean, like it doesn't matter because it's still a good business, but you want to pay attention to where the ball is going. And you kind of start seeing that, we have a presidential administration in place and, they are poised, like they're in a position to profit the most. And it is what it is, but that's just politics. But if the direction of what we're going as the US. And you having countries catch up. You have Qatar Airways, you have, Dallas Mavericks accept crypto payments. You have all these big companies switching over. The rule of thumb is like, hey, you don't have to be the smartest person, but sometimes you can be the smartest person in the room to realize, what's going on. Right. So for us, that's where we're really just focusing on this, keeping it as simple as possible. Because while we do have the experience, Frandy, like with traditional ATMs, thousands, some of yours that you compete with, I probably placed myself, Bitcoin ATMs, credit card processing, I see us shifting towards this direction. And I'm seeing all the indicators in place from just being in the space. So while we're still brand new to this, just to be frank, we're brand new. It's still a point where even some of your customers might be, taking it back. It's the exact same thing when Apple started saying, hey, we're going to start doing Apple Pay. Like the thought of paying from your phone was just unheard of, right? But then you take one step back and you're like, wait a second. Oh, tap to pay. Remember when we didn't even have that? Then you take one step back and you're like, oh, remember when we didn't have chips and it was just a magnetic swipe? Then you take a step back and you're like, oh, remember when we had check readers that used to automatically scan? And that was the coolest thing because it filled it in for you. It's just natural progressions of business and investing. And you just want to stay ahead of the trends. And that's it. And those who stay ahead will profit the most. And then the market will just become more saturated. It'll be more competitive. There'll still be a lot of opportunities, just like how there is with ATM still and credit card processing. But let's be realistic, just like how, back in 2015, when I was investing in crypto, there was a lot more opportunity then than there is if you're investing in 2025. You can still make money, but in 2015, when everyone was saying it was a scam and it's still in its infancy, that's where the real money was made and all the stories that people talk about. So that's where we're at with this. It's pretty exciting just because obviously a wide variety of people here that have different sets of experience also kind of having the same idea with completely different backgrounds. So that should tell you something. It's more logical than emotional because you're like, this just kind of makes sense. I'm actually in Colombia right now. The reason why is because we're trying to open a second call center to speak Spanish in the US time zone because I have a lot of people in Colombia and South America, especially in Peru and Ecuador and El Salvador that are like, hey, does this work over here? And it gets to the point, it's actually very comical. Our ads are only for the US. Our posts are literally only for the US. So it got to a point where I was talking to my marketing team. I was like, what is going on? Like, this is great. But I'm like, why do I have so many like rappers from like Colombia reaching out to me? He's like, hey man, I'm connected, etc. And they're like, we're not doing anything. And then what I realized was if you look at the share button on a post and that number goes up and up, you realize it's being shared and we can't control where it goes after that. So we've had people that hop on from Germany, Romania, Dubai, et cetera. And while we do offer this internationally, we're just focusing on the US, obviously, for now. But you start realizing how it's very logical and rational. And the real money moves behind the scenes are going towards this direction. Even if they're talking a big game towards something else, in general, we're moving towards this direction, whatever you do, whether it's investing in crypto whatsoever, you do this business, it doesn't matter what it is, we are moving in this direction. It's just taking your piece of the pie. And that's it. So with that being said, guys, Walter, what do you got? You just got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, got it. So somebody pays $200 worth of fiat into 100 XRPs, right? Me as the owner, do I have the option to say, okay, I want to put 50 XRPs into my wallet and give me the other 50 equivalent in fiat? Can you split it? How you get your money?
So we don't do it like that because there are the transaction fees because then we're acting as like a crypto exchange. So we usually just do the payment they're doing. So it looks like, I'm just going to show you in case you guys haven't seen this before. It looks like something like this. So remember I said it's more software based, where essentially it's smaller. So they'll have the amount, just like any terminal that you pay with, right? So you type in the amount, reference number, you might put the ticket number, order number, service number, etc. They choose if they want to do a tip like normal. And then from there, they choose different cryptos. So on the back end, obviously the customer is going to send their crypto at that current rate, and it's going to give them an email receipt automatically or a printed receipt, depending on how you set it up. Most people obviously do text or email. So on the back end, it's going to settle the transaction just like any payment. So like if you are settling an Amex transaction at your restaurant, you choose to settle on that. What you do with it on the back end is your option. But for us, we don't do like split setups like that yet because it doesn't make as much sense. Most people just won't do it. Most merchants just want it in cash. They're not thinking of like investing, and that would make this more of an investment platform versus just a payment processor is what we're doing. So,
okay.
Cool. To answer your question.
Okay. Yeah. Now the other question is, now you showed me the tip screen. If the owner decides not to transfer that into cash and keep it as a crypto, I guess, how that will depend on the owner just to tip the person whatever the equivalent was on that transaction, I'm assuming.
Correct. Yeah. Usually you're probably talking about your waiters or waitresses, right?
Right.
Yeah. Usually when you pay out tips, sometimes at cash when you batch out, or maybe at the end of the month, depending on how you're structuring it and the laws in your state. But yeah, it's the exact same method. If somebody paid their tip in credit card, just like how you would do that, it's the exact same thing here. You structure it the same way, nothing changes. So
okay.
Awesome. Tony, I saw you join in. I think this is California yourself. And then Wally, if you had any other questions, or Frandy, maybe ATM related, anything you guys need questions wise.
I did
Tony,
want to mention about chargebacks. So essentially, crypto's a little weird because if you send Bitcoin on Ethereum blockchain, more than likely you're not going to receive that Bitcoin, right? So as far as like Bitcoin, blockchains and sending payments on the merchant side, it'll essentially not show them, let them know like they never paid, right? They never settled that payment, or
yeah, they wouldn't be able to send it to.
goal?
Yeah, the wallet wouldn't. The way it's set up, I'll show you. So basically, the way it's set up is when you scan the QR code, it does the amount also too. So it wouldn't work because it's not the right type of address. All these different ones have different types of addresses. So the chargeback is different. What you're referring to is usually, you swipe a card and then somebody disputes a transaction with their bank and they say, I never received it. Product wasn't, as the service I wanted, etc. That's different. That doesn't exist with crypto because it's a one-way. That's it. So there's no more chargebacks. Refunds, which is probably the follow-up question, can happen. You just initiate it on your end. Then basically the customer, you could do it cash. That's one of the easier ways to just do a refund because it's obviously one way. Or if you want, you could do it with that. And then what we would do is just send them an email if they got to send us their wallet address, and then we send them an amount. That's an option. But there are no chargebacks because once they send it, it's irreversible. It's like a wire transfer.
I have a question. So, for example, if we install our terminal at a dealership and a customer came for like 30, 40,000, 50,000, and they're buying the car. How we going to calculate the amount if they want to pay by Ethereum or Bitcoin for that equivalent to, for example, 10,000? How are you going to calculate for exact that time, that rate? And it's going to show on the terminal like this is how much is a Bitcoin right now. This is how much if we convert it to the cash, and this is how much the dealer is going to get and a customer is going to pay.
Correct. Yeah, literally. So you choose the amount, for example, that you said you're going to charge them, and it says this is due. And the moment you press the button for what crypto you want, it's going to give you a real-time rate. And then if it expires, I think after like 30 to 45 seconds, it refreshes. So then they scan the QR code.
Got it. So it's mean if for example, if the transaction is taking time, crypto is always up and down. So it refresh every 30, 40 seconds. And
correct.
Okay, so it's on real time price.
Yeah, it'll tell you it expired. So it says it expired, redo the transaction. So.
Okay. And you were mentioning something about ATM. That's what's like you're offering as well right now with the terminals? This is something you're doing?
No, not anymore. If you need help with that, I have the connection still, but used to. We've placed thousands across the US and Canada. So Frandy over here who's asking a question, he has ATMs at liquor stores. I was just reflecting that I had placed some ATMs in the past. So.
Okay.
And then
how long have you been in this kind of like business as far as cryptocurrency?
Sorry, one more question after. Well, yeah, please answer. That's okay.
Yeah. So Jorge, you said how long in the business? We've been doing this for a year, like this specifically. Completely pivoted from traditional payments. So initially was focusing on cash discount. If you guys are familiar, like dual pricing is one of the terms. Doing that in the US and Canada. So we're still around, have that company around still, that mostly they focus on restaurants too. Then obviously we started pivoting because you start realizing what's happening big picture wise. And then also, we have the right president in place that's really pushing this. You start seeing the sentiment of the market. So this year is like the main year we're focusing on this. The plan was like years ago to do it, but it was just a little too early. Like there'd just be very like niche down businesses that would maybe do it. But nowadays, like it's just the right timing for this. And it comes down to right timing sometimes in business, and just happens to be right now where like the market's moving this direction and people are getting very excited about crypto. And it's almost like if you go into like a casino and you have extra money to spend, it's the same thing with crypto. So it's perfect timing to like introduce this. So.
Okay, so my question is, you're going to charge 2% of each transaction. That's going to go to you or the company, right?
Correct.
So, and we have to put our margin 1%, 2% on the top of that, which makes it like, for example, 4%. With the traditional payment terminals, what do you think, what store owner or what a customer, what should convince a customer like why they would go with the crypto and not the like you're making 2%? I'm talking about with the big ticket.
So they should go with crypto versus
like they're paying they're paying more than the credit card processing fee, right? Like on a credit card, like they're not paying anything. The processing fee mostly goes to the store owner. All right, like nobody charges the customer. So if we go to a deli, if we get like a can of soda, it's $1, they're gonna charge us $1, right? But if they want to pay through crypto, we have to charge them at least like 3 to 4%, like 2% yours plus 2%, like or 1% our cut.
You could do so I'm pretty sure it was Tony had a call center with payment processing. If you've been like especially with volume, if you deal with like merchants in bulk, I guess you call it, it's actually very common. The most common thing right now is cash discount or traditional dual pricing, as we call it, where it's like, hey, if you decide to pay with cash, you pay the actual $1, and if you decide to pay with a card, you pay 3.5 to 4%. That's like the big trend right now, just so you know. So, and that's very normal. Like I'll show you some numbers. I still have access to all the dashboards.
No, I have idea. There are some places that there is that, no doubt. Not everyone, but like it's mean like this model is not gonna be super successful for small tickets, like a deli, like something like that, where a customer is buying a bagel or a coffee for $4 or $5, and if they'll pay with the card, that's the same amount. And if they have to pay with the crypto, owner is gonna ask them for like you have to pay 3% or 2% or 4%.
You could do that you could also charge the merchant too if you want. So it's your choice. So it's just like the same thing with credit card processing, where you can say, hey, you know what, maybe 2% goes to the merchant, 2% goes to the customer or something like that. It's your choice how you structure the deal. The path of least resistance to get this into businesses is usually when you say there's no fees whatsoever. But you could approach them and just say, hey, you know what, it's going to be 2% to yourself, or 2.5%, 3%, whatever you want to charge to accept this. Because either way for them, if they're getting charged, just like you said, they're doing traditional payment processing and they probably had rates that went up, and maybe they think they're getting charged 2.5%, but really if they look at their Schedule A, there's some hidden fees in there that's really more at the end of the month. You could say it's no difference. The only difference is I'm allowing you to accept more payments. So if the merchant's like dead set, like, hey, I don't want to charge the customer, there's no problem. You do the exact is usually just want to charge the customer. And even with credit card processing now, if I went back into it, I would only focus on charging the customer because it's easier to transition merchants over to. So,
right. So like the only way we're gonna make money, like I'm gonna make money with my percentage, whatever I put on top of yours.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Like there is no bonus back, kickback, chargeback. Like I'm bringing $2 million transaction every month, for example, but there's like your 2% is yours, and whatever is on the top of that, what they have to charge the customer. Definitely, I don't think so. Nobody want to pay, like any vendor would, like, pay the way they're paying to the credit card merchants. So we have to charge customers right now.
You're gonna want to. That's like the path least resistance, like I mentioned. You'd be surprised though. If you start like just start surveying random merchants, you'll start realizing that we're actually you're usually either pricing in that cost into the actual price, like whatever you're selling, or you're just overtly passing it on to the customer. It's been very popular over the last few years, like cash discount in general. But to answer your question, yes, just like any traditional payment processor, if you worked with most of them, they don't work with you, but any traditional payment processor, there's gonna be that flat rate, which is at least 2.5%, especially with you as an agent. So you're already charging at least 2.99, 3.2% or something, or you might say like 1 penny per transaction in addition to this. So that's normal. Merchants are used to paying. And I know if you guys are merchants in here, either you eat the fee and you price it into your expenses, or like you charge the customer more, or you overtly say, hey, there's a discount for accepting cash, right? So you can even frame this the same way of saying it is a cash discount where you pay with crypto or you pay with credit cards, or if you want to pay me with cash, you do that. But that's the structure of like in general payment processing. That's the way that, yeah, that's the standard structure. So
Makes sense. Okay, thank you.
cool. Anything else? Tony, I know you got something. I know you got something. It's like that Denzel meme. I'm leaving out here with something, right?
I'm just listening and thinking, because most like I have a lot of clients, they're into crypto heavy, and they don't feel the pinch if they can pay with their crypto as opposed to paying with the dollar. They for convenience.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's a great offer. I think it's a great deal. Especially right now because people are not so trusting of the dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
it encourages people to use their crypto, and it's going to expand the market share for them. So, for example, if they want to buy something and from just their profits, they're not going to really feel 3%. They're just not going to feel it. They're not going to think about tariffs. They're not going to think about any of that. It's more of a psychological thing. It's more psychological.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
No,
the
because
way you want to. Sorry, what's that? I missed you guys.
no, because like if you think about exchanges, putting crypto into fiat, there's a 3-5% charge there as well. So
Mm-hmm.
you'll be getting more fees to get it back to fiat. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I do have a question for Tony though. Are you talking about real estate, like real estate sales, or
You
what
know,
kind of sales?
clients that are in automobile, food, retail, they ship globally. So I work with a few different industries. But since 2015, a lot of these people have put their money into crypto and they've made a nice
Mhm.
profit. And those that are in the space prefer to use their cryptocurrency. They are very distrusting of the dollar right now, ironically. Ironically. So for vehicles, for example, especially now that the IRS is taxing crypto holders as brokers. So now it becomes more attractive to them. I set my clients up, if you have any cryptocurrency, I make them create a brokerage, a trust. So now if they can use their credit card that is tied to that brokerage trust, it's tax wise, right? It's an advantage for them because now that comes from that spendthrift trust. They don't have to touch their money. So everything begins to line up for them and they don't feel the pinch. They don't feel it. It becomes more mainstream. It takes away. Right now, anytime you talk about fiats with people, it's a pain point. It's a pain point. So now if they walk into a merchant and the merchant says, hey, listen, we can offer payment via crypto, it takes away that pain point for them. So they're not going to think about the 3%. And that it won't even be a factor for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it won't.
You bring up an interesting point, because I rarely mention like international commerce, just because most, the focus is usually like local businesses, right? So obviously when you are purchasing online, you'll actually see it's much more common to pay with crypto. And it depends, like enterprise level is a little different. B2B, depending if you're spending like 10 to about 50,000, a lot of these places, when you're importing, they'll actually accept payments in crypto. And as much as, those are the Marines, law enforcement, I love the US, we're actually like a little behind when it comes down to tech with this. That's the reason why we're playing catch up. Like in South America, it's way more advanced. In Europe, when it comes down to crypto, way farther ahead. I'm telling you right now, like the amount of interest we have from South America on this, it's bonkers. Like the amount of people that want to do this, because they face currency devaluation faster. And this isn't going to be like a politics or anything like that, guys. Just so you know, don't worry, right? But essentially, the way you want to think about it is, I bring up stable coins for a reason. It's probably going to be the biggest thing in our generation, as much as it was just kind of seen as an oversight, because at the end of the day, we've just passed the US dollar across the world now. And we've just outsourced our debt. And there's going to be a post on IG about this too, probably go viral. It's essentially, when you really think about it, by passing that law in the US, the Genius Act, I encourage you guys to just Google it, just look into it. You realize that they've just forced all the USDC, USDT, whatever stablecoin to be backed by the US dollar. So we've just moved from the gold standard to the oil, petrodollar, to the crypto dollar, right? So just one transition. And no matter what politics or whatever you believe in, that's objectively, that is information, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So now we've just outsourced our debt across the world, right? It's because now somebody in Nigeria that had 50, stable coins, they own a little fraction of the US reserve now, right? So it's comical in that sense. But the reason I say that is because then there's no difference. So Wally brought up a good point of saying like, hey, well, what's the incentive? There really is no difference, because if somebody has $50,000 in stable coins because they don't trust their bank or whatever, they travel a lot, whatever, and they pay in that, there's no difference. Because if they had bought it from Coinbase or Gemini or whatever, they didn't even get charged a fee, maybe like $2 for it, because it's in Coinbase's interest, because they're obviously at a lower rate.
Right.
So essentially, it's just a way of accepting payments, just like Apple Pay, of digital dollars plus these other cryptos. And so as more become more popular, we accept different ones, but that's all we're really doing. And then you're just that person in the middle, like any other payment processing business. And it's going to be the biggest thing.
So I've been teaching my clients how to create their own stable coins and then apply gold. So I'm on board with crypto and tying it to your assets like 150%. I just think it makes sense. So the more that we can get the word out and articulate to people, hey, I think this is just a better way to go. It's literally a better way to go. And America is behind. The US is so. I said that when Hillary Clinton was running for office. I was like, why aren't they teaching people about cryptocurrency? Like how far behind I think we are in the US. And what was that, over 10 years almost?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is really getting ahead of the curve, although we're behind. Like, it's amazing. It's correct. Yeah. it's really
this is what I call, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, for car dealerships, this is a perfect fit. For car dealerships, you have a lot of people who don't want to report taxes, report their earnings, and they're holding money in crypto exchanges. Same thing if you're buying a home, which you just mentioned, real estate. I think in a year now, you can use crypto assets as reserve money to qualify for your home. So yeah, all of that gonna tie in, especially now if they're gonna use smart contracts. It just makes sense to me. I'm thinking it makes perfect sense. It's like that cog that you fit in the wheel. So
for sure.
It runs
logically. And it's not, and the best part about this, what I like about this room also is it's not as emotional, if that makes sense, because you're just objectively like, why, like the question is just like, but why? And if you can just answer the why to yourself, then you kind of realize why you're ahead. And so essentially, you know, I think Tony, you came in a little later, and Wally, I'll send you guys this video also, but 2-minute video. Coinbase CEO was talking about, you know, initially this is 2 months ago when the Genius Act got passed, but he essentially was talking about how, you know, stable coins would be the future of the US, et cetera. And midpoint in the interview, he says, but our focus is crypto payments. Because instead of the trading fees that we're charging, which is more speculation, that's going to be consistent revenue for us.
right.
So you have the shift of bigger companies realizing, if we're going in this direction, who's going to be the one charging the fee? Because really it's the railways. Like if you look in payment processing, it's over $140 billion in profit per year, split between Visa, MasterCard, sponsoring banks, ISOs, those agents, everybody. So essentially, you want to think of the same thing with this. There's very specific use cases that are very well right now, like dealerships, high ticket businesses. One analogy, somebody's told me he's in business also in construction. He's like, yeah, this is perfect because sometimes people don't want to pay the last payment and I got to go through a lawyer and this and that, but I can offer them a discount in crypto. They don't have to worry about a chargeback, all that good stuff. But the other thing he said is like, it's also a means of if somebody has that extra funds, and it's that one boost they needed to actually complete a payment or upsell like a bump order at your business. Well, you know, if you're getting your transmission fixed, are you going to keep your crypto or are you going to get your transmission fixed? You're probably going to get your transmission fixed. So there's those businesses also. You start looking at strip clubs, a lot of businesses where they're going to say, hey, you pay a certain amount up front and you have to spend it, like bottle service at clubs or different things like that. They're poised and primed for this because, again, they're at risk of, oh, I was never there. I don't know what my wife was talking about, right? So you have all these incentives, and it's funny, but like it happens for a reason where they take a picture of you when you paid $3,000, right? So, you know, in business, you guys understand sometimes there's shady people, but essentially that's the focus with this right now. And then you can secure a lot of other businesses also because, again, with the equipment, it's just software based. So you can add it into their tablet, existing tablet or whatever system they're using, or just get a pretty simple tablet for them and just have the software there. And it's very fast to scale this up. So very simple. Wally, what's up? Let's finish it off with you.
Yeah. Do you have, I think I asked Denny, I forgot, like, do we have any physical terminal you guys offering? Made it like it's just look more legitimate if it's like, you know, sitting on the counter? You know what I mean? Instead, like somebody's taking payment in the phone.
Correct. Yeah, really good question, right? So we do have some betas. I'm working with some manufacturers right now. So obviously it'd be something like this, super simple with a receipt paper, just all the basic features, and they're usually going to be Android-based tablets. Just like the normal ones you see at a lot of these businesses, or if you travel international, there's a few brands, especially in South America, you're used to. We will have some, but you have the option of doing whatever you want. So if you just want to get roughly about $150 to like $200. So,
okay.
yeah, nothing crazy.
Right. So we can like, you know, just buy and give the customer as a gift, like don't charge them to make them like, you know, offer them free terminal.
Correct.
There's no setup fee for the customer either.
Correct. Yeah. So you can do something like that. And then you have like, there's a few different things we talk about, like marketing this, but like the little pop-up stickers that say crypto accepted here, things like that. You can do the exact same thing and they can market your business with a QR code to your business. Hey, are you a business looking to accept this? Reach out to me so you can start expanding also.
That's something we have to make, those stickers or the posters to put it in that, or you guys supply that? You have some like format?
We have formats. Yeah. So the templates, everything, like everything you think of to scale this, because, you know, I come from the Bitcoin ATM space also, which is way more like competitive market. And I spent, oh man, hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing. Like you're talking about TaskRabbit, hiring people to just stand in front of stores and spin a sign, to like the dancing inflatable things in dealerships, to, you know, everything you can think of. I tested out, including research firms, asking customers what they like, et cetera. And it's usually, just so you guys know, I was talking about this with clients the other day, it's usually in person. The most usage comes from in person. They see it, it's available, then they use it. And this is from Bitcoin ATMs where you're talking about $20,000, $30,000, $50,000. So as much as I tried, you know, different Google SEO, AdWords, I used to buy taxpayer data, like everything you think of, the simplest way was just those stickers, signs, window stickers, just people knowing it's there, then they use it, just like anything. So real simple. We do cover everything. I try to make things as simple as possible, because if you can just make it into like a third grade level, if you're advanced in business already, it's easy for you to scale, right? Because if it's too complex, it's usually you don't want to get into it. So yeah, that's what we got for today's Q&A. A little longer than I expected, but I like your guys' questions. I'm going to actually have like one of our consultants, if you guys are spoken to like Daniil or Zach, they'll probably shoot you a text to see if you have any questions after this. And then if you didn't get that YouTube video, like I mentioned, just a 2-minute one about the Coinbase CEO, just send me an email, get them at digitalresiduals.co, and I'll shoot you guys a copy just so you guys see big picture. And if you need anything from me, like if you want to chat with me later this week, like personally one-on-one, we could set that up probably like later in the weekend. But we're here for your success, because at the end of the day, as much as you guys are ahead right now, like within that first batch of people like reaching out and like looking into this, all you got to do is look at the posts and just look at that share button, and you'll realize exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of interest. People are realizing like, oh, this is very rational. It's just going to take that one event, just like 2020, from us going from in-person to Zoom, to be the exact same thing with this. And one idea, I'll leave you with this little theory. So people like free stuff. You guys are in business. You know that, right? Everyone likes like a rebate. Hey, you get the third taco and you get the fourth one free or something, right? So, if we're forcing adoption of crypto, right? Well, what if, when you get your tax return, they say, hey, you get extra $50 or $100 stable coins if you get it in stable coins. Well, all of a sudden you have a big shift of people getting into that, or some type of rebate at the state level, or any type of paperwork, just like how electric vehicles, what do? You get a federal tax credit. You want a solar panel, hey, federal tax credit. So the best way to get people to adopt something is usually what? A federal tax credit. So all we are is, I'm not saying that's going to happen. We're just one thing away from just being a gold rush, like a sprint. Right now, it's just you're looking around, you're like, man, it seems like these trees are very dry. And then somebody lights a match and the forest fire starts to happen. So that's how I look at it with business in general. Sometimes you are early to an idea. It makes sense. Maybe you take that one step into the pool and you're like, oh, this really makes sense. And you sprint with it. You just got to find that information you need to make that informed decision. And that's it. So appreciate you guys hopping on. If you guys have anything for me, let me know. I'm going to reach out to Daniil to send you guys some text messages with any questions you guys have. We'll make sure you guys are taken care of. All right.
Thank you. One question.
All right. I'll give you a call right after, right? Take care.